Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm filming in front of my new bookshelves for the first time and I'm so excited. It's not organized yet. I don't know how I want to organize it, but we have something to work with. And I thought this aesthetic is pretty cool. Like, I will never have books like this laying anytime soon, so I thought I'll take this opportunity and film in front of this not organized bookshelves in front of my books that you cannot even tell which one is which. It's just exciting. Today I'm gonna be doing my 2019 wrap-up. I joined Booktube in the end of January of 2020, so I never really did 2019 wrap-up, which is such a shame because I still read 30 books, there are so many incredible books to talk about. The only video that I did is my top 5 best books of 2019. I'm gonna link it down below. So this is the stack that happened in 2019. I love taking picture of all the books that I read in that year, and just kind of like helps me to memorize what I read and what I thought about the books. And I read total of 30 books, and the total amount of pages that I read is 8,498. Wow. Compared to all the other years, 2019 was actually my best reading year. So I have 6 favorite books of 2019, so let's talk about them. On the first place is Bird Box by George Malaman. On the second spot I have 2 books, We Should All Be Feminists and Dear Gioeli, or Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. On the third spot is The Next Person You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. The fourth is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. Fifth is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. And the sixth is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. Alright, let's talk about each of the books and why they're my favorite. As you probably can see, all the books are really different. They're all different genres, so it was really hard for me to put this list and put in this order because they all were 5 stars. They all were incredible books in each of their categories because they're different genres. So Bird Box by George Malaman was my top favorite book of 2019 because I've never really experienced so much joy and excitement in reading the book. That book devoured me. This mystery of what is killing people. A lot of people were disappointed about the ending because it doesn't really explain you what that mysterious thing was that kills people. Even though it sucks not to have like a good satisfying ending, it was still really nice because it felt like he opened a lot of space for our own interpretations or for his own benefit to like write a second book in the series if he wanted to do that in the future. So we'll follow this woman named Mallory, and she has this 2 babies, and she's teaching them that the world is a dangerous place. You should not open your eyes outside. And there are 2 timelines. One we're following her with children, and one when this all mess started, how she got to where she is, why she has children, and stuff like that. So usually do not like books that are linear and then they just follow one story, one character and explain everything. I love jumping between timelines. I do not like a lot of timelines, but 2 is kind of perfect. So our main characters could not see when they were outside, and so George Malaman took this opportunity to really write how they would feel and what they hear and in what their perception of the outside. It was just so incredible to read stuff like that. Not a lot of people who write like blind characters or characters who cannot see for some reason go into this route. They still describe what is around them, which how could they know? So it was really just a smart decision that he did on his part that made my enjoyment of the book is really powerful. The second is We Should All Be Feminist and Dear Gioeli, or Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions. That's a mouthful to say. I felt like it was appropriate to put these 2 books in the same spot. First of all, because they're short. Second of all, because they're by the same author. And third of all, is because they discuss the same topic, which is feminism. These were my first books about feminism that I ever read my entire life. I never really proclaimed myself being a feminist because I didn't really know what the whole idea is about, but when I read We Should All Be Feminist, everything just clicked with me. I was like, oh my god, this is so true. This is what I connect with so much. They both are nonfiction, and so I never really thought that nonfiction can fall into my top 5 or 6 or 10 of the year, because it takes a lot out of nonfiction to be great, and everything that the author says I should connect with and agree with, and I totally did. the ideas that were discussed, they were so true to what I felt myself, and they also opened my eyes to some new ideas that I never really thought about. These two were just wholesome books that I connected with a lot, and I highly recommend if you've never read anything by her, or if you feel like you would like to learn more about feminism. This is so accessible, and you can literally read both of these books in less than an hour. So those were amazing. Then we have The Next Person You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. Mitch Albom is my favorite author of all time. Everything I read by him is amazing, so this was no exception. The Next Person You Meet in Heaven is actually a sequel to The Five People You Meet in Heaven that I read like in 2014 or 15. Reading this book was so nostalgic. I actually reread The Five People You Meet in Heaven before reading this one, so they kind of like went as one story for me. I really like this one. It's like a spiritual book about this girl Annie who lives her life and she meets her five people in heaven, and she learned some really cool lessons. So incredible. There's that to talk about. Please read Mitch Albom, please. Fourth is The Pet Sematary by Stephen King. When I finished Pet Sematary, I didn't know should I give it a 1 star or 5 stars, because the way this book made me feel, how much disturbance, how much realistic horror and creeps I got from this novel was totally 1 star. It made me feel horrible. But then I was like, it is a horror. It's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. So of course I gave it 5 stars. Stephen King's writing is really true, and I really like how he is not afraid to put his characters through hell. He's not afraid to do stuff that will make you uncomfortable, him uncomfortable, everybody else uncomfortable. You know, people die, and people make mistakes, and people aren't perfect, and they have their own demons. He writes really good male characters. He writes really good family dynamics, and he writes really creepy children. This is just a story about grief, father's grief, and him trying to fix the mistake that he thought was his own. So it was definitely great. I'm sure all of you already read it. If you haven't, please do, because it's incredible. 5 stars, obviously. Then we have All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, a historical fiction. I honestly was scared to read this book. First of all, because it's pretty big, and I've heard people saying it's slow, and it is kind of slow. It follows like 2 main plot points of the blind girl who is French and living with her dad, and the war hits from her side, and it's just like her story going through the war, and also a German boy who is very gifted and who goes into like a war academy, and they teach him stuff there, and it's his perspective of the war. The writing was really beautiful. It was really complicated. There were a lot of long difficult words that I had to go and translate, but it was still worth it. This book was intense, and this book does show some of the horrors that the war brought. Not all of it, of course, but there was a lot of truth to this book, and I really just liked diving into children's life. I really love following not like young adults and not teenagers, but really children. If I'm following the story of child suffering, I don't know why, but I really connect to this really much. I don't know, I just love reading about strong characters because I'm not strong. And then The Girl on the Train with Paula Hawkins. Of course, we had to have at least one mystery thriller on this list. This book collected so much hate lately, and I don't know why, because I personally very much enjoyed the book, and I did not see who was a killer. I really love characters who are true, raw, and real, with their mistakes, with their flaws. I love that. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't like reading from the character's perspective who's struggling with like drinking problems, but like everybody's struggling with something. Will I read this book again? Probably not, now that I know the resolution. So I just really like the story. I didn't guess who was the murderer and who was behind all the stuff, and it impressed me and gave me the feelings that I wanted from a mystery thriller. It was just a very good mystery thriller in my opinion. So usually I make a list 5 and 5. 5 best and 5 worst, but this year I decided that there's only 3 books that actually I gave 1 star, 1 or 2 stars to, that offended me a lot, and I want to talk about only 3 of them. So number 30, which is my least favorite book, is Wicked by Gregory Maguire. Number 29 is Illuminate by Kaufman and Christoph, and 28 is Hey Kiddo by Jared J. Krososhka. Okay, we're gonna go with that. Alright, so Wicked. I wanted to like this freaking book so much. I started reading it, and the first chapter or two were really exciting, getting into childhood of this witch, trying to see where she came from, why she was born the way she was born, and then it was a huge kaboom and the whole story falls apart, and then we go into her teenager years and in college, and it becomes all of a sudden some kind of fluffy YA with some intrigue. What? I was so disappointed and I'm so angry with this book because so many people say, oh, this is so great, but I have no idea why people love this one. Some of the characters are completely out of random. They didn't even belong to this Emerald City. I DNF'd this book more than halfway through the book because I was like, this is absurd, this makes no sense, and I don't see the point on keeping reading this book, so I was just like, I'm done. And that happened in January. In January, when I was so excited to start reading the books. So yeah, 1 star. It was a horrible book, and I'm so upset. Do you know why? Because I have all the other books in a series that now I have to get rid of. Illuminate! By J. Kristoff and someone Kaufman. I know I'll get so much hate. It's not Illuminate files. It's cringe files. Are you guys kidding me? I can see how 15-16-year-old will like this book. I really do. They'll like talk back, talk crap about others. They'll like fall in love, just break the rules. I can see that. Their planet is under attack, and so they try to flee and they get on the ship and they're safe, and they have this interview with this guy, and you know, who's asking them normal questions such as, what did you see? What did you notice? What happened? And this guy Ezra is freaking savage. He's like having his freaking teenage attitude, and he's like swearing and being cool, and I'm like, what is happening? Just answer his questions. And he's calling him chum and stuff. Like, who is saying chum? Did you? I've never met a boy who would say chum to the like a grown person and being like, chum. Why they're so hyped up? I guess the format of the book is really cool, and people just like overlook the actual plot points. I love stuff to be believable and realistic and close to the real life, and this is so far away from it, so of course I didn't like it. It was 2 stars. Okay, and then Hey Kiddo. It was a graphic novel that I borrowed from my library, and I was just interested in reading something fast. I don't want to say too many bad things about this book because it is written as like a memoir of this guy's life. I think what I didn't like about the story itself is just that there was no point to it, you know? It's like you read a story with no point. There was no moral, and that book is this thick. And reading all of that was just like, felt like a huge waste of time because I didn't see any point of reading it, so I gave it 2 stars. It was just... So there you go, guys. This is my 2019 wrap up. Let me know what you thought of any of those books, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next one. Bye!